He moderated Indonesia's very first presidential election debate in 2009 and was the official spokesperson for Joko Widodo when the current president ran for office. Most recently, between 2017 and 2022, he served as governor of Jakarta. He's now one of 3 candidates running for his country's highest office. With Indonesia's presidential election set to take place on February 14th next year, I took great pleasure in speaking with Anies Rashid Baswedan. I am Shireen Muhyiddin, and this is Stakeholders with Shireen. Anies, welcome to Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you, Shireen, for having me here.
Former governor of Jakarta, and now you're running to be president of Indonesia. As you know, next year, 2024, many of the major economies are going to be having elections, and we could see leadership changes. We're seeing India, Indonesia, and the United States. If you are elected as president, what policies will you implement?
I served as governor of Jakarta and Minister of Education prior to this new assignment that I am now taking as candidate for president. When I manage a city like Jakarta or Ministry of Education, you will learn that you have to have principles in making decisions. You have to have guidelines that allow the bureaucracy, the infrastructures under your authority to go on the same directions as your vision and your mission. So the key word whenever we're talking about the future is stability, predictability. Because whenever you're talking about change, people are always worried about, will what I've been seeing as good thing continue or discontinue? Or I'm promoting the idea of change. And what is consists as change here?
Right.
I'd like to see more implementations and of policies based on principle of equality, principle of justice. The world has been seeing an interesting phenomenon that inter-country economic differences has been narrowing down. So disparities between countries is narrowing down, or even between major cities narrowing down. Look, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, Tokyo, London, New York, in the 70s and today's, we are seeing the gap is narrowing.
Yes.
However, disparities within countries are widening.
Yes.
So KL with the regions of Malaysia, Jakarta with the regions of Indonesia, the gap is also widening.
Yeah.
And why that is the case? Because often in many of our policy, we are not seriously incorporating the principles of equality in our development policy. And that was also my experience when I managed Jakarta. I told everyone that the value we are upholding is social justice, equal opportunity. For every head of department, you need to review your policy. Is the policy you are making is fulfilling that objective? And if not, then please revise and make sure it is fulfilling that objective.
Right.
So having that is key, because you are managing a large scale. Your leadership is not only about managing 20 people or 200 people or even 200,000, but in a country like Indonesia, it's 276 million people.
Yes.
So set the value, translate that into policy that mirror that value, and then let everyone on your bureaucracy, from the cabinets to head of regions to head of districts, to actually follow that principle. with that, I believe we can address some of the basic problems that we in Indonesia are facing.
Oh, that's very encouraging to
And
hear.
if I may a little bit share some of our experience in Jakarta, we have 11 million people in our city. And this is the place where you can see the richest family in the country and also the poorest in the country. The most educated and the least educated. It's all in one place. So I adopted the principles, let's make sure that every policy we make, every facility we make is a policy and facility that can treat everyone equal.
Right.
Let me give you one example. For Department of Parks or Departments of Public Works, they never receive order about ensuring equality in your policy.
Right.
Usually it's making sure the infrastructure is good, sidewalk is well, the roads. Suddenly we're talking about equality.
Right.
And people say, what do you mean by equality? Let's make sure that our road is for all mode of transportation. For pedestrian, for bicyclists, for two-wheelers, for four-wheelers, and also for public transport.
Right.
And it's called complete street. Why? Because we need to facilitate everyone, not only the four-wheeler that has dominated our street for so many years,
Yes.
but also make sure for cyclists. So suddenly we adopted the policy of building a bike route across the city. And suddenly people started to do biking. And we have been seeing, in the case of Jakarta, tenfold number of people riding bicycles on daily basis.
Oh.
Why that is the case? Because we then realize that when we produce an infrastructures, it has to meet all segments, not only one or two segments.
ASEAN, everyone is chasing foreign direct investments. What would be your strategy to attract FDIs into Indonesia? And are there any particular sectors that you're focused on?
Number one, for a country like Indonesia that has vast opportunities, on the other hand, we're also competing with other countries that offer leniency in terms of rules, regulations, incentive.
Yes.
What's needed is certainty in terms of law, consistency in terms of regulation, and upholding rule of law, combating corruptions, promoting good governance. So those are first priority that I'd like to adopt if I were given the authority to manage Indonesia. Is with regard to, number two is with regard to improving the logistical system and the infrastructure. Because we are talking about investment opportunity across Indonesia, not only investment opportunity in Jakarta
Yes.
or in Java. So logistical system and infrastructures were clearly very important. And it has to be government that invests on that. So that we will provide breakthrough so that we'll have more efficient logistical system and infrastructure. Number three is ensuring a human capital available is also at par, meet the requirement of that. We have plenty in terms of education institutions, training institutions that can be adjusted to the needs of foreign direct investment
Right.
in a particular sectors. And when it comes to the sectors, I think the low-hanging fruit is in the natural resources area. And the opportunities are still vast. Number two is manufacturing. Indonesia will have to undertake a reindustrialization policy. We had in the past, however, we need to do it more intensive and extensive.
Right.
We'd like to see more industrializations in areas outside Java. Java contributed significantly to our economy. Jakarta itself is 1/5 of Indonesian economy. It shows highly concentrated.
Yes.
Therefore, we will be encouraging around 14 other big cities to serve as engine of economic growth across Indonesia. And industrialization on those areas will be given incentive, will provide the regulatory framework, will provide the fiscal incentive, the monetary incentive on that. So with that, we'd like to see more manufacturing because we need to create no less than 3 million jobs every year.
Yeah.
And industrialization is key for that.
So more of a balanced approach.
The third is creative industry. We've been seeing new generations of the millennials, the Z, the Y. These are groups that have creativity that's infinite, and they have all kind of breakthrough new businesses and many new startups. Even in Jakarta is one of the center for this creative industry, and we've been seeing young talents from all over Indonesia coming in with good ideas and meet with investors and then created new businesses. So those are the third area that I'd like to invite for the foreign direct investment.
Right. Yes, I understand even in the film industry, there is a group growing in Borobudur that is encouraging a lot of foreign direct investment, and the talent is there. The rupiah, and is similar to many of our currencies in the region, have all been weakening. I'm seeing currencies as weak as we saw during the Asian financial crisis. A difficult one, but what are your strategies to strengthen the rupiah?
Yeah, the ASEAN financial crisis, if you remember, 97, 98, we lost about 80% of our values. It started as currency crisis, translated into financial crisis,
yes,
and then economic crisis, and on top of that, a political crisis.
Yes.
So that made the crisis that Indonesia had to face in that period was much worse than any country in the region. Most countries experience currency crisis, financial crisis, but not so much economic crisis or even a political crisis.
Yes.
So, but we have recovered from that period. Of course, rupiah has reached its new equilibrium, which is of course very different than it used to be. Now we are slowly depreciating our currency. However, let's look at it in a long-term perspective. That I believe the strength of our currency reflect or functions of our productivity. We will have to continue supplying goods and services to the world and actively contributing to the world economy so that you will have transactions with the rest of the world.
Right.
Having that transaction with the rest of the world will ensure that rupiah is also stable because you have this transaction with the world. So that's one important aspect. So having productivity is one. Secondly, is ensuring that our policy are coherent within monetary policy,
yes,
sectoral policy, and fiscal policy. These three aspects has to be coordinated in a good way, and you need to rely on highly competent technocrats, economists to do that, and give political directions, however less intervention in terms of monetary and in terms of fiscal, unless it is necessary to maintain stability within the country. So you have a band in which currency can actually fluctuate within that band.
Right.
And ensuring that is very important, and it's also send a signal to the world market about where we stand in terms of providing rooms for market to operate, but on the other hand, informing that there is a band in which fluctuations is tolerated within the country. When it comes to long-term stability of our currency, it is important to ensure that our inflation is under control. And that is why one of our key policy reform that we are promoting is with regard to the food sector, because it is one of the most contributive factor to inflation. If rice price increases, immediately inflation increase. So stability in the food sector is key. And number two is ensuring that investment in terms of portfolio and foreign direct investment is given enough rooms and incentive, so it will also attract support to our economy. Two more things I'd like to mention about Rupiah: promoting tourism. It's very important because you will have, inflows of people coming into the country. The last thing is about political stability. Political stability does matter, and we have been grateful that Indonesia has been a vibrant democracy and a stable democracy.
Yes.
So elections were done on regular basis. People coming into the to the election booth, vote, and move on. So those are things that we hope will be able to stabilize Rupiah and provide foundations for long-term stability.
Right. Nusantara has had some mixed reviews. What are your thoughts on Nusantara?
Nusantara, the development of that city, has been instructed through our national bill.
Right.
So it is law of the land, and we have to follow that. And it is a new city being developed. What we intend to do is we'd like to see existing cities across Indonesia to receive incentive to grow much bigger, to facilitate industrializations, to facilitate more migrants to coming in and work in that cities. So no less than 14 other cities. But this is not new cities. This is existing cities to be promoted, scale up, to serve as engine so that our economy will not be concentrated only in Java, but not also concentrated only in Nusantara, but across Indonesia.
Right. We've seen some large-scale infrastructure projects in Indonesia with some social implications. What are your thoughts on this?
This is why it's important for the leadership to set clearly the values that everyone need to follow. Yeah. So who gets what, when, where, how much? It's a basic political economy questions that when a policy is adopted, you really have to look at on the proportions of that issues. So it's important to ensure that conversation within the region, in the area where investment is going to take place, is being conducted properly.
Right. Okay.
Invite everyone on board and discuss and find solutions. I don't think there is any precedent in which deadlock or reach. If you are open, you outline the proposals well, and invite opinions, and allow the process to go through in the normal way.
Right.
What often happens is this: you expedited the dialogue, the process, and then you haven't reached conclusions, and you already done the execution, and then rejection in the field is going to happen. We had the similar experience in Jakarta. Whenever we're seeing new investment coming in, there is always tension on what issues. One, environment. 2, land concession. 3, labor engagement, because sometimes many of the investments were recruiting non-local workers. But if those issues were discussed prior to executions, you're always able to find solutions.
Right.
And that's what needed. And I think that is also one of the reasons why recently we often see conflicts at the very grassroots, because the process often got expedited. Ensuring all stakeholders were on board is key.
Right. Absolutely. That's the basis of ESG.
Yes, indeed.
So, Pa Anies, as we wrap up, are there any words you'd like to say to the Indonesian community here in Malaysia?
Thank you for the opportunity to share some of my message to the Indonesian community here in Malaysia. If I may say it in Bahasa Indonesia,
please.
I can reach them more directly. Terima kasih kepada para pekerja Indonesia yang berada di Malaysia yang telah ikut mensejahterakan keluarga di kampung halaman. Anda bisa berjarak jauh, hitungan kilometernya dari kampung, tapi kami yakin hati dan pikiran saudara-saudara semua tidak akan pernah jauh dari kampung halaman. Hati dan pikiran pasti selalu dekat dengan kampung halaman. Ada sebuah kalimat yang sering kita pegang. Di mana bumi dipijak, di situ langit dijunjung. Berada di negeri ini, ingat bahwa nama baik Indonesia. Jaga nama baik kampung halaman. Hormati aturan, ketentuan, dan pastikan hadir di sini sebagai pribadi yang disyukuri, yang dirasakan manfaatnya.
I am honored to have had Indonesia's 2024 presidential candidate, Anies Baswedan, as the first stakeholder to grace this brand new series. We have heard him expound on his vision for more inclusive policies. Anies spoke of bringing change while maintaining Indonesia's stability and predictability, two important facets of the country's growing appeal to foreign investors. We also heard about his desire to infuse principles of justice and equality into its development policies by narrowing existing wealth and education gaps among its citizens and by bringing growth beyond the city of Jakarta and the shores of Java. Anies Baswedan faces Prabowo Subianto and Ganjar Pranowo in his bid to become the 8th President of Indonesia on 14th February 2024. Join us next time on Stakeholders with Shireen.